solution engineering
Mm-hmm.
was very much these like weekly cycles, quarterly cycles. Like you would do something and but stuff was like cleaner in terms of when it was done. Like you would have your projects for the week. Like a lot of what we did could be wrapped up in like a week or two or a month or a quarter. It was, I would say the time schedule of things was very more stable versus say with PM, not only do you have say your short term kind of solution engineering type things where you're thinking on that short term time scale, but you also have your like medium term, a couple months out types of things that you have to keep track of. And then you have your like super long term where it's like you're working on something that's like due out in a year, but you have to keep moving that ball forward because you can't just run up on like the month before it's due, being like,
Or
shoot, you
you could,
could,
but
and then you get stressed out and have to have a dance party and wave sage in the air on your podcast. So that was something that was frustrating at times for me starting out because the way I like to do things is I like having a clear head. So if I get a
Mhm.
task, I was the same way with this in college. I got a project, I got a paper I had to do. I wanted to get it done as quickly as possible
Mhm.
because then I didn't have to worry about it. So when I first came to PM, my brain was a bit trying to like think in that mindset and kind of brute force things that way. But I very much quickly realized like you can't do that. It's there's too much marathon running here for
Mhm.
you to, and even if you do that, then you're just gonna have three more things like take its place. Like so
That is amazing that you wanted to get things done right away because I was the opposite. I was the type of person that wanted to wait until it was the deadline and do all that stuff at the end. But with PM, I've realized that it's better to do things little by little, if you have the time, of course, because then you might be working on something happily without any stress, and then someone pings you and they're like, hey, I need this by today,
that's
or
my
you
entire
have this
job.
right, or you get into a meeting and you're like so happy, and then suddenly people are like telling you, you need to do this by next week. And then you're like, oh, okay, so let me just stop doing whatever I was doing, and start doing the other thing. So you just have to be ready to like, you know, get an assignment that is due next week or tomorrow or I don't know, today, end of day. So that is definitely a big change. I think that during solution engineering, we were handheld a little bit. I don't want to say that I was handheld, and I feel like you weren't neither, probably. I feel like we were pretty, at least me, I was pretty independent in the sense of like, I wouldn't be messaging my manager. I would just bring all of my issues to my one-on-one, you know?
Yeah, I would do the same thing.
And the rest was just me working on whatever I had to work on. I
Mhm.
do think it was way more chill, let's say, because it wasn't you working on 20,000 things. At most, it was you working on two or three things, right?
Mhm.
And that was because you try your best to find opportunities, let's say, it's not because you were like required. I mean, you should be required to do those things, but I think while you are starting your first year, it's more of like you trying to find what works best for you and having a guide there to help you succeed on that, right? Or if you have any blockers, right? But at the end of the day, definitely when you switch to product management, first of all, I think since we were in class off, I knew I was helping people, but I didn't see how impactful I was, right?
Mhm.
Compared to PM. That's when you like are in a real position where you have to deliver yes or yes. This might impact something way bigger. I don't know. Like I definitely felt more responsibility when I was in PM that in class of as an SE because it was just me starting. I don't know if
Yeah.
you felt that difference.
Yeah, like there definitely like is more I guess like it's almost like a weight to things
Mm-hmm.
where like with class of even if you're say like finding side projects to do and stuff, there's
Mm-hmm.
still that feeling of like, well, at the end of the day, people know we're in the class of still and we are still starting out. versus like when you become a product manager, like you don't really have that excuse anymore. It's like, yeah, you're new, so people will be a bit more like understanding with things, but you don't, that's not something that I would say you want to see how long that kind of
Right.
graciousness lasts.
You don't want to be in that position, like
Yeah.
for a long time, for sure. I think those are one of the topics we spoke about when we switched to product manager. That was basically saying, like, we actually like continuing to grow and actually work on serious